Cobra Kai continued many of the old rivalries and villainous partnerships of the Karate Kid franchise by frequently pitting these characters against one another. While the Netflix spin-off series featured a variety of new characters, a handful came straight from the original 1980s films. Johnny Lawrence, Daniel LaRusso, Chozen Taguchi, John Kreese, Terry Silver, and more are even better fighters in Cobra Kai than they had been in the Karate Kid, so their fights were naturally that much more exciting. Of course, not every legacy fight in Cobra Kai was created equal. Original Karate Kid characters fought in nearly every one of the show's 6 seasons, and some were full of that specific flavor of drama and flair, others fell a bit flat. Some fights were packed with exciting choreography and artistic filming and editing techniques, while others were over almost before they started. So, how do these Cobra Kai fights between Karate Kid characters rank, said and done? 17. John Kreese vs. Terry Silver, Round 1. Season 6, Part 2. Terry Silver looking in the mirror in Cobra Kai Season 6, Part 3. Johnny Kreese and Terry Silver's long Karate Kid history naturally makes their fights in Cobra Kai intriguing. However, the one featured in Season 6, Part 2 didn't give audiences much to get excited about. Kreese is beyond his prime by this time in the story, while Silver's size and strength make him a dangerous opponent regardless. For precisely this reason, Kreese brought a knife to the fight, but he dropped it before reaching Silver. This fact meant that Silver made simple work of Kreese, who was only spared because Johnny Lawrence stepped in at the right moment. 16. Chozen Taguchi vs. Mike Barnes. Season 5. Chozen Mike Barnes Daniel Cobra Kai Season 5. Chozen Taguchi and Mike Barnes were villains of the Karate Kid Part 2 and the Karate Kid Part 3, respectively, but they never had anything to do with one another in the film franchise. Still, seeing these two face off in Cobra Kai Season 5 was a great deal of fun. The fight was brief and took a more comedic angle than a dramatic one. It's for this that Chozen and Barnes' fight can't rank higher. Still, seeing Chozen come to Daniel's rescue after mistakenly believing that Barnes was on the attack was undeniably entertaining. 15. Johnny Lawrence vs. Terry Silver, Round 2. Season 6, Part 2. William Zabka as Johnny Lawrence in Cobra Kai. Since Terry Silver joined up with Kreese in the Karate Kid Part 3, Johnny had no experience with the man before he appeared as a villain in Cobra Kai. Of course, it didn't take long before things grew personal between them. Back in Cobra Kai Season 4, Silver ambushed Johnny at the Cobra Kai dojo, kicking him in the face upon entering the building. While their rematch in Cobra Kai Season 6, Part 2 was short, it was satisfying because it allowed Johnny to get even. Just as Silver was about to finish off Kreese, Johnny jumped in and delivered a surprise kick to the face. 14. Johnny Lawrence vs. Daniel LaRusso, Round 2. Season 3. Daniel and Johnny fight in the garage in Cobra Kai. Cobra Kai Season 2 saw one of Johnny and Daniel's early alliances, but it didn't last long. They had come together to hunt down Robbie Keane but quickly realized they had differing methods. The old Karate Kid rivals fought back-to-back against a gang in an auto garage, but when Johnny became too violent, Daniel stepped in to stop him. The result was a brief fight that ultimately ended in a draw. It's always great to see these two face off, but this one was a bit anticlimactic compared to their other fights. Cobra Kai Season 2 came with the big moment during which Johnny Lawrence and Daniel LaRusso faced off with one another for the first time since their 1984 All Valley match. Ironically, Daniel was the hothead this time, barging into Johnny's apartment and demanding to see his daughter. Johnny attempted to help Daniel calm down, but things quickly became intense. This fight was excellent in that Cobra Kai included brief clips of their fight from the Karate Kid as a contrast. However, the fact that they were interrupted before they could finish put a damper on things. 12. Johnny Lawrence vs. John Kreese, Round 1. Season 2. Kreese and Johnny fighting in Cobra Kai Season 2. Cobra Kai Season 2 also saw the return of John Kreese for the first time since the Karate Kid franchise, and Johnny wasn't particularly thrilled. The last time the student and sensei had seen each other was when the latter placed the former in a choke hold after his 1984 All Valley loss. Cobra Kai reminded audiences of this through flashbacks to the scene in the Karate Kid Part 2, which certainly cranked up the tension for the on-screen fight. This moment could have featured more interesting choreography, but it was a solid fight between Karate Kid alums Daniel LaRusso vs. Dennis de Guzman. Season 6, Part 2. Dennis de Guzman in Cobra Kai. Dennis de Guzman was a minor villain in the Karate Kid Part 3 who had served as one of Terry Silver's lackeys. Cobra Kai revealed that these two were still in cahoots, since Guzman was hired to kidnap Daniel during the Sekai Taikai tournament. This ultimately led to a fight between Daniel and Guzman, and though our hero didn't remember the villain from decades past, this was still a rather fun fight. It was another chance for Daniel to pull out his classic crane kick technique, which naturally earned him a few additional points in his fight with Guzman. Daniel LaRusso vs. John Kreese. Season 3. Ralph Macchio as Daniel LaRusso beating Martin Kove as John Kreese in a fight in Cobra Kai. Kreese proved himself too much for Johnny to handle in Cobra Kai Season 3. However, Daniel turned up in the nick of time to help out. This was the only time these two ever faced off, and it quickly became apparent that Kreese was willing to put a definitive end to Mr. Miyagi's student. After the two fell through the front window of Cobra Kai, Kreese grabbed a shard of glass and came at Daniel, who whipped out the Miyagi-Do nerve technique Chozen had just taught him. In a rather satisfying conclusion, Daniel rendered Kreese's arms completely useless.